It is week 3 of Around the World in 30 Minutes with Cole McDaniel and Matt Mrzinski. And, well, the United States have continued to play well against really the expectations, against odds, going against England. I think most people thought that even the ones who were optimistic and felt like the United States could make it an interesting match, maybe surprised that they actually came away with a point in that one. Still felt like England had all the talent in the world to walk away with 3 points, but the United States surprisingly dominated stretches of the match, maybe had some of the better chances. We're going to dive into the recap of the United States here first, but again, everybody, thank you for watching and listening to this podcast here once again on the Key On Sports YouTube channel. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, please make sure to do so. We're continuing to wind down through the World Cup here right now. Matt and I have enjoyed this special show going into the final round of group stage matches. Matt, good to be with you. How are you feeling about the U.S. right now?
Well, for starters, thanks for having me on again, Cole. And with the U.S., they've surprised me this whole tournament. I thought, we'd see something a little bit more along the lines of how we played in 2014. Not so much, sitting back and breaking, but breaking with a purpose more often. And in this tournament, it's been a lot more of quick build up play. Getting around the outside backs, trying to put in quick crosses, or just quick 1-2s, two touch passing, and then splitting the two center backs, and it's worked to relative effect for the U.S. so far. Unfortunately, one tough moment for Walker Zimmerman has stopped us from being at 4 points and playing to not lose. Which I think being in this situation almost better suits the United States. In any time where they've been in a don't lose situation in the last 4 or 5 years, they almost end up losing those games or making it too close for comfort. And I think when their backs are against the walls and they have to produce something, that's probably when they're at their best. So I like where they're at right now, and from an eye point of view of just enjoying how they play, I think they've been probably the best team in the group in terms of how they played.
Well, the coach of Iran agrees with that and said today that the United States had been the best one in the group, and they've been the most consistent in the group, I guess is the best way to put it. The way England went out against Iran initially and dominated them 6-2. They let up a couple goals. We talked about Harry Maguire being costly, allowing that first goal for Iran, but that performance, England came out absolutely obliterating them, getting the attack going, scoring goals easily. And I think that's why people expected against the United States, okay, England's going to end up winning this match. The U.S., I mean, they probably should have won that match against Wales, but when Walker Zimmerman made that challenge and Bale stepped up to the PK spot and hammered it home, he did what he had to do. And that was really the one mistake that cost the U.S. their 2 points. But they played a pretty good match. Things were going the direction of Wales in the latter stages of that match, so feel good about still coming away with that point, even though you could have easily gotten the win. Then go against England. They came out and they performed well. What I expected, and I think most people at least expected, I thought they were going to just sit back and try to absorb pressure and then strictly get out on the counter, because you have an England group that they have some solid attackers. They've got a good midfield that can possess the ball. They've got good outside backs that can get forward. The problem for them is probably the slower center backs. So I expected the United States to absorb that pressure, try to find a way to get out in transition, have Weah, Pulisic, some of those guys with speed get out in transition, going up against Harry Maguire and John Stones. It really didn't happen that way against England. They actually came out, and the United States, despite the initial part of the game, England having more possession. Second half, the United States had more possession. So the United States actually bossed the midfield truly against Jude Bellingham and Mason Mount and some of those guys that were in there. When Henderson came in, he made some good runs, but he wasn't enough to get Tyler Adams and Yunus Musa out of their rhythm. And Weston McKennie performed quite well, even though he's not fully back to match fitness. He had a good run out, but then Berhalter took him off so he could, get a breather, rest for the next match. So they performed really well. I was surprised that they really came out and went head-to-head, toe-to-toe with England. And they could have easily won. I mean, Pulisic, that left-footed shot, he hit the crossbar. There was that cross into the middle where I think Weston McKennie didn't expect the ball to bounce. I think he thought he was going to get to it and volley that right before it hit the ground. It just skipped, so he was leaning back. It came off of the half volley, came off a little bit higher rather than right on the boot, a little bit more on that ankle bone and sailed high. Those were the two good chances. You put that Weston McKennie shot on frame, and I think it's a goal, but regardless, I think the U.S., they're thrilled with where they're at right now. You go into a match where you expect that you can win against Iran. I know we're going to touch on that here in just a little bit, but it's a good start. And I would say that England match, they performed well. It was just telling that England's best player was Harry Maguire, which is so funny that he stepped up and actually played a decent match. I thought they were going to be able to exploit the weakness of him, but he came in on some tough challenges and was physical. And he was the dangerous guy on set pieces as well, which he's usually dangerous on those. So shout out to Harry Maguire. I don't give him props too many times, but he actually was probably the most stable part of that England defense.
Yeah, and it's telling how far the United States has progressed as a soccering nation, that I can sit down with my dad and my brother who know next to nothing about the game other than their little exposure when I was living at home and watching it with them and playing high school soccer. And they watched me and my sisters play, for 10 odd years. That when they sat down and they watched 90 minutes of a 0-0 draw that was full of chances, and the United States had 47% of the ball, that they came out of that game saying, how did we not win against England of all nations? And it's very telling how far we have come with the youngest squad in the World Cup, that we are that close, just taking one of those half chances, full chances of being 6 points rather than being on 2 points. And I think Iran is going to sit back, but I think that plays to the United States' strengths, honestly.
Yeah. Last thing I want to touch on recapping that United States and England matchup, talk about some of the Berhalter decisions, some of the substitutions, changes that he made. Taking out Serginho Dest because of the yellow card, I think was smart. You want him around. Maybe a little surprised that Joe Scally didn't come in. Instead, it was Shaq Moore. But I actually don't hate that decision because I think Shaq Moore was honestly coming in to rough up Jack Grealish a little bit. Grealish can oftentimes run a little bit more of a hot-tempered guy. I think it was a matter of just trying to get into his body, get him rattled, and Moore did a good job of that, making sure that he was taking him down. He was definitely initiating some contact, playing physical. He played well enough in the time that they needed him out there. I think it's smart that they took out Weston McKennie for Brendan Aronson. I mean, Aronson's going to play every single match, even if he's not in the starting lineup. You really can't go wrong with that change there. I just would have loved to have seen Aronson have a little bit more time on the pitch, just because I think he makes some big impacts, especially the way he defensively presses. And he's shifty, he's quick, he's clever. So I like the way that he plays. I would love to see him out there more. The big thing is, yes, Gio Reyna came on. Reyna came on much later. There's a little bit of drama going on right there. I don't know how true the reports are about a rift between Reyna and Berhalter at the moment. but Reyna needs to play plenty in this next match. He's one of your most talented players. He's still definitely young, like a lot of the group, but he needs to be out there on the pitch if he's fully healthy, and it seems like he is fully healthy now. Get him out there. My thing is, I just wish Haji Wright would have come off sooner. I understand why he was in there. I think the main reason he was actually in there was not because of him being the forward. It was because of them needing some size against Harry Maguire defensively on corners. He was the one matched up against Maguire. I think that's why he was in mostly. Also, just as the 9 to be in the box, see if something could happen. But he was out of the box too much. You texted me that, and I agree with you. I think it was a match that really needed that false 9. I talked about wanting to see that false 9 coming into the match. I just think when you have Tim Weah, you have Christian Pulisic, and they're guys that want to get out there on the break-in transition with speed. I don't think they need somebody to cross the ball to that was bigger in the middle. I think they need somebody who they could pass to in the middle who can run at defenders. And that's Gio Reyna or Brendan Aronson. So I think both of those guys should have been more impactful sooner, probably been in sooner. I'm glad to see that they're in. I think that Berhalter is going to put Reyna in. If he doesn't, it's a huge mistake. I think you'll see him out there for at least 30 minutes in this next match. He really needs to be out there for that long.
Yeah, I think it was really interesting that both Southgate and Berhalter waited so long to make changes. I thought England was really sloppy and sluggish for 55, 60 minutes, other than maybe the opening 20 minutes where they looked somewhat lively. They were really poor. So, but it doesn't shock me that Southgate waits so long to make subs. But at the same time, Mason Mount was that poor, and you've got Phil Foden on your bench. I don't understand waiting till they're not even using Phil Foden at all.
Mm-hmm.
He's your best attacker, other than Harry Kane, and Harry Kane's got a bum ankle right now. And same with Berhalter. But with Berhalter, I can understand a little bit more waiting, just because you don't want to put some of these young guys in a too pressing of a situation, but pressure makes diamonds, as they say. And unfortunately, you're in a spot where you got to win, but again, I like those chances.
Yeah. So as we look to the next match, going up against Iran, and Iran sitting on 3 points, the United States, if they win, they're going to be moving on, advancing. I doubt Wales is going to really do much against England. They might be able to keep it close, but they fell flat on their face at the end of the last match against Iran, and blew that one. Honestly, wanted a 0-0 draw. That would have been ideal, but Iran coming away with that win. United States, if they win, they should be advancing through. They would be advancing through, because Wales, even if they managed to beat England, the United States would then be sitting at the top of the group with 5 points. So win and you're through. That's pretty straightforward for them. Iran has not impressed me at all. I think even though they got that win against Wales, it was a red card in the 86th minute to Hennessy, your goalkeeper. You drop down to 10 men, and then you give up 2 late goals. It probably would have been 0-0 if there was no red card, if it was at 11s. So we probably wouldn't be talking about the same type of discussion with Iran on 3 points. It probably would have been them on 1 point coming into this match. They looked poor against England. The only reason they scored 2 goals, I think, was some faulty defense of England. It was a bit of a turnaround for Harry Maguire against the United States, but that first goal was poor. I don't know where he was on the field. Iran scored that goal, and yeah, I just think that their talent level is not there. If the United States plays their brand of football, they go out there and they play just an excellent soccer match like they did against England, they should easily win. Now the question is where the goal is going to come from. Well, I don't think you have great number nines. That's probably one of the weakest positions. I think the questions coming into this World Cup was who's going to be the goal scorer at the number nine. There's no Harry Kane type on this squad. I wish Erling Haaland would had some American blood in him and he could become a United States national team player. That would be fantastic. You just don't have that type of guy. Ferreira's there on that squad. He hasn't touched the pitch at all. He's more of a quick guy. You have Haji Wright, who's built for size and the physicality. I think Josh Sargent's probably your best number nine right now of the guys that you're carrying on the squad. He nearly had a goal in that opening match, that header that glanced off the outside of the post. I think he's the most threatening nine, but I don't think he's one of your best 12, 13 guys. That spot in center back's the question. If I were Berhalter coming into this one, I would have really said that the last match, a false nine, was more important. I don't think this one, it's as important. You could easily put Josh Sargent out there. But me personally, when I know I got to get goals, I trust Tim Weah, Gio Reyna, and Christian Pulisic to get goals more than Sargent out there. And Sargent has been good. Don't take that in the wrong way. I think he should end up in the match if they need some goals towards the end of the match and throw him out there. But I really actually think rather than a false nine, I say you run a true number nine. But Tim Weah can play the number nine center striker. I would say this would be the match where you put in Gio Reyna, start him at the right wing, opposite of Christian Pulisic. You have Tim Weah there in the middle. I think this is the match to open that up, let them try to go after it, and then Brendan Aronson's your spark plug off of the bench. I also think in the defense, the other change I would make coming into this match, Matt, at right center back, Walker Zimmerman. He made a couple good blocks, defensively a couple decent plays against England, but he looked shaky and timid and tentative because I think of the mistake that he made against Wales, and his passing was off of the mark. I would look at Cameron Carter-Vickers coming into this match, play still Robinson, Ream, and Dest, but I think at right center back, I would certainly look to run out Cameron Carter-Vickers, give him an effort, an opportunity out there. I think this is the opportunity to give it a try and take Zimmerman out since he's been shaky.
Yeah, well, you got to. I agree with you attacking wise. You got to do something because I mean, you really just need one goal, but ideally, you want two or three just to get some flow going, get the goals back in the team, the spirits high, and hopefully you can take that into the knockout rounds if you can get two or three goals. I don't know if I totally agree with you with making a change at the back. Yes, Walker Zimmerman hasn't looked great. He's probably been the weak link defensively. But by no means has he been bad. He hasn't been a Harry Maguire during the Premier League season by any means. But I mean, and I guess if you're going to make a change, you got to be certain with what change you're making and what you're going to get out of that change. So I'm not totally sure on switching up the back, but I do agree with you going forward that I think if you're gonna give Gio Reyna more than 30 minutes, you might as well start him because you always got Brendan Aronson on the bench who can play in midfield or play on the wing. So and you always got Sargent and Ferreira or Haji Wright if need be. But you do got to try something, and Weah has been known to play down the middle, and so I think you got to go for it with going forward. But I don't know about switching up the defense quite yet.
Yeah, my concern just with Zimmerman, and no, defensively he's been okay. The problem is when he's been on the ball, he's been forcing these passes that have led to turnovers and transitions. You can't deal with those counters, which is the problem. He about cost the U.S. a time or two. Fortunate that Tyler Adams and some of those other guys were tracking back well and were on their game. Zimmerman as a center back, World Cup, you need to win. You can't be squandering passes. And it didn't cost them against England, but could it cost them against Iran? Because my problem with this is that coming into this match, it's going to be different. I expect the United States to control possession. I think they're going to have maybe 60% of possession or more. So you're going to have to watch out for counterattacks. So if the defensive line is coming forward, that makes it even more important that you're not having careless turnovers and giving it back to the other team so they can get out and counter against the two center backs. Ream's been fantastic, but Ream is not a speed-based center back. He's older, 35, 36 years old, still plays really well, but he's not built for speed. And I don't want Zimmerman stranded on an island 1v1 because he turned it over. That I think could cost them. So that's why I just want to see that change in Cameron Carter-Vickers. If it's not a change there, it's not the end of the world. But I just think that alleviates some risk because I don't think Cameron Carter-Vickers maybe coming in fresh is going to have that little inkling of doubt that seems like Zimmerman's almost been playing with and being tentative. I think that maybe he'd at least control the ball better. But glad we're on the same page about the forwards. We'll see if Berhalter does it. My gut feeling is Sargent's could be running at the 9 with Way at the right wing, but I really think it's an opportunity to put Reyna at the right wing. Let Weah run up the middle. You have Aronson on the bench. If Reyna can't give it a full go, at halftime you need to make a switch and put in Aronson. That's fine. I just think you have to put guys who are comfortable on the ball, can attack with speed, put their head down, and challenge the defenders of Iran. I think that is the big key for them. But all they need is one goal if they can pitch a shutout. That's all they need. And I think Matt Turner's been fantastic in goal. I think you got a good chance if you're defensively sound to pitch that shutout. Just have to find a way to score.
Yeah, and you mentioned it earlier, Tyler Adams. And I'm just going to propose this to you because it's been on my head a little bit. Should the U.S. post a shutout, we score at least one, we go through. Does he make the team of the tournament? I mean, he's been that good for the United States.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think he's been the best midfielder in the group. I think there's a really good shot, should the U.S. go through here, that he gets, at least mentioned in that talk for team of the tournament, if not makes it. I mean, he's been that good, and Leeds is going to be, they're going to be hurting if they sell him at any point in the next 6 months, because he's been that good, I think, for Leeds, and he's been even more important for the U.S.
Well, he's fantastic. He flies around around the pitch, makes a lot of challenges. He's a great leader, a great captain for his age. Just a phenomenal talent, really showing up on the world's biggest stage. And we already have seen him show up with Leeds within the Premier League, one of the biggest stages. Now he's even stepped it up to another level, I think, here at the World Cup. But I think it's a benefit to him that Leeds in the United States play a similar brand, a similar system. I think they like to high press, they like to run, and it fits well for him. He has been lights out. That first match against Wales, Gareth Bale was named player of the match, strictly because of that penalty and knotting that match up. He did not perform well throughout that match, was actually bottled up. Tyler Adams was the best player on the field. Christian Pulisic played fantastic against England. Tyler Adams about matched him. So even though Pulisic was named player of the match, Tyler Adams could have easily been a candidate there as well. So he's been one of the best 1, 2, 3 players on the field for both teams in the last 2 matches. He has been to really, he's taken it to a level where he should be on that team of the tournament. I would think that especially if they get the win here, you're going to see that happen. Deservedly so. And talk about being calm, cool, collected as well in the press conference. I mean, he has the maturity of a veteran, a guy who's in his 30s. He's going to be the United States captain, I think, for many years to come. I think I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years from now, 12, 13, 14 years from now, we're talking about, even as he's hitting kind of the end of his career, maybe 36, 37 years old, we're still talking about him as being the captain of the United States, because he is a leader and he runs everything really, really well. So I'm happy with him. I would assume you feel the same way.
Oh, I am ecstatic with how he's been, and he almost seems to relish being in that leadership role. And it wasn't like it was thrust upon him. Berhalter, he had a decision to make, and it was go with your best player and go with your calmest player. And he seemed to figure out who exactly he wanted to be his mouth on the pitch. And you can't say that he made the wrong decision by any means. He's so calm, and the way that he directs the field from the team from where he's at.
Mm-hmm.
You never see him barking at people. You never see him in someone's face. You see him almost guiding, and he's only 23 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the craziest thing. He's younger than you and I, and he's out there leading men. He's just been fantastic, and you always hear his name, whether he's making a pass or cutting off a passing lane and getting an interception. He's everywhere, and it's he really does deserve more respect, I think, on the world stage, and I'm sure he'll get it after this tournament.
Yeah, so the final thing I want to touch on here on this show, we talked about the United States last match. We talked about their upcoming match. Well, their upcoming match is, of course, the last match that they have here in the group stage. And everybody else, they're actually hitting the last matches of the group stage. So a perfect time to talk about what we foresee coming up with the rest of the group stage. Now, first episode 2 weeks ago, we discussed who we thought was going to make it through each of those groups. We're not going to necessarily go through every single group, but there are a few things that I do want to touch on, because, of course, there are some interesting developments in some of those groups. And starting in Group A, because, same day that Group B has matches going on, the United States looking to get through, you see really a congested Group A. I mean, the Netherlands sitting on 4 points, Ecuador on 4 points, Senegal on 3 points. It is up in the air of what to make it through. Obviously, the Netherlands, I think they've got a pretty good path in front of them if they get the job done. But, you took Ecuador to get through. I took Senegal, and both really battling it out to try to find their way through. Would probably appear like we're coming down to a tough battle, because if I am correct, I mean, it's Ecuador and Senegal going up against each other. So, winner take all. It is going to be a fun one. Just the last thing for Senegal, they can't have a draw; they have to win. But they look pretty good. I think both of those teams actually stand a good chance to make it through.
Yeah, Group A had a lot of quality other than the hosts, and it really showed just how and even in that first match for Netherlands and Senegal, I mean, it was a tight match, even though it was a Netherlands win. That was it was just good old soccer all around there.
Yeah, in Group C, that one's fascinating as well, just because it is difficult when you lose that opening match. And Argentina did it. I mean, they lost to Saudi Arabia, and now they're battling to try to get through. Do I think Argentina will make it through? Yeah, that would be my guess. But they made it a difficult road for themselves, and they're in a battle there in that group. I mean, Mexico, they are in a position where they're really at the bottom there. I don't see any chance of them getting through. It really seems like it's down to Poland, Argentina, and Saudi Arabia. But that interesting developments with an Argentina team that a lot of people were predicting as favorites to win it. I had them finishing in third. I think they'll still make it through because they've got the talent to do so. But they're not out of the clear in this final round.
Yeah, It was an interesting decision in the first match not to start Lissandro Martinez at center back for Argentina. I didn't understand that move. He's been lights out for Manchester United, but clearly the manager seemed to figure out that was a mistake in that first match and put him in the second one, and it's paid off for Argentina. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it finishes out. I think I had Mexico going through in this group behind
Yep.
Argentina. Boy, do I look silly now.
No, that's okay. I mean, I had Poland, and we'll see what happens there. They are sitting at the top with 4 points. They clearly have the opportunity to get through. Saudi Arabia is still kind of nipping at the heels there, and because of that first opening win they had against Argentina. So, I'm not too confident about if Poland will actually make it through or not. But I just feel like Argentina is still going to find a way to get through in that one. But not much to talk about in Group D. I mean, France is clearly in the lead. A little surprised maybe Denmark hasn't performed quite as well as I would have thought early on, but wouldn't be shocked here in this last match if Denmark finds a way to get through and still in that second spot, kind of like we both talked about. Group E, though, I want to touch on Group E. Spain, Japan, Costa Rica, and Germany. I mean, we talked about this group being a candidate for group of death, and it's been that way for Germany. A team that you and I both thought there's no way. 2 World Cups in a row. They have sluggish group stages. They're having it again, and each team's really beating each other. Now, they picked up a point, Germany did, against Spain. But Spain looked dominant in their match against Costa Rica, blew them out of the water 7-0. Japan beats Germany, then Costa Rica beats Japan. I mean, it is just everybody beating each other. And aside from I'm confident about Spain getting through, I have no clue whether Japan, Croatia, Germany, I'm not sure about who's going to be there in that second spot. I mean, I would assume that my best guess is that Spain going up against Japan. I think Spain's probably going to get that job done in that match. So I don't think Japan will get through. I think it's probably going to come down to Costa Rica and Germany would be my best guess, and Germany might be able to still get through. Maybe Japan's best bet would it be if they can get a draw with Spain. But not necessarily, sure what's going to happen there. There's a lot happening in that group.
Yeah, and Germany's problem's been similar to the United States, and that they don't have a true goal scorer in that team. They've got a lot of creatives, and unfortunately, they're one guy who they usually rely on for getting the goals in Mueller. He just hasn't been scoring. He hasn't. I don't know if it's the age or what's going on, but he just hasn't seemed to be quite on top of it. So yeah, and Havertz is he and Morata probably are similar on how just poor they are at finishing.
Right.
Obviously, Morata with Spain, but I mean, sure. I mean, I might sound silly that I say that he has 2 goals in this tournament, but if you ever really sit down and watch a season with Morata, you'll just see how many sitters he misses, and Havertz is probably the same way. Coincidentally, both played for Chelsea.
Well, something that's an issue with Germany, I think, is Marco Reus. Last couple major tournaments, he's picked up injuries right before those tournaments and hasn't been able to play. He maybe could be a difference maker if he was out there playing and being one of those wingers for them. So, that certainly hurts Germany. They still have a chance to make it through. Group F, Group G, I don't think too much to talk about. The only thing in Group F is that Belgium, they're certainly looking older. They're certainly slowing down. We talked about expecting them to get out of the group and then collapsing right after. Well, they're almost collapsing already in the group. Can they still make it through? Absolutely, they can. Croatia, I know you were concerned about the age there in the midfield, but I still think they've been performing well enough that I think they got a good chance. Morocco's come out, played pretty well. Group G, Brazil, clearly handling that one. Last group I want to touch on, though, is Group H. Boy, was I wrong about Uruguay. I thought that with the forwards that they had, that they could still come out and score goals with Cavani and Suarez, despite them being older, and pairing them with Nunez. And Darwin Nunez, yeah, he's been pretty poor with Liverpool to start, but I figured this was an opportunity to shine with his country, which he's done as of late when they went through qualification. In the World Cup, no, it's been a disaster class. It's been really bad for him, and they haven't been able to find a way to find the back of the net. I had their own struggles against Portugal, and Bruno Fernandes putting on a quality performance himself. So I was wrong about Uruguay. It looks like Ghana has a really good chance to make it through.
Ghana always seems to play spoilers. And typically, it's been with the United States. They've played spoilers for us, but they always seem to I always seem to mess with a country's tournament, and I mean, it's really silly of me early in this podcast to sleep on Ghana. And they play with pride, and you can see it every time that they're out there.
Well, and you can't forget, and I think we basically did forget about Ghana certainly getting paired with Uruguay in this group, and the issues that they would have with Uruguay from 2014 in that World Cup. Smart play from Suarez off the line with the handball intentionally, and then Ghana missed the PK. So, no, I mean, it all circles back to 2014, which is funny enough with them getting paired in that same group, but I think it's pretty straightforward. Portugal's been the best squad there. They've performed well. Again, Ronaldo just does not look the same. He has not been that impressive. But that being said, again, he's at least a presence in the box. And whenever Ronaldo's around, you have to pay attention to him. But credit to Bruno, picking up a few goals in the match that they just had, and he's putting on a good performance. A lot of Premier League players on that Portugal team. Looks like they should easily, like I said, be number one in that group, come out, and they are a country still to watch out for. No doubt about that. That's for sure.
Yeah, they've seemed to almost bypass the reload stage. It almost seems like they aged out a lot of that core from the 2010 World Cup and even the 2016 Euro Championship team, and they've just went out and they've just developed even more players, and they don't have the problem that the Netherlands and the United States had. They just have gotten stronger and better without having to have a slip up, really. So, and I think after this tournament, no matter what happens, I think they'll be even better equipped without Ronaldo. Unfortunately to say, I mean, he's one of my favorite players of all time. It's really sad to see someone who's been revered for so long in the game and has been on top of the game for so long just quickly decline. But it happens. It's sports.
Yep.
And Father Time catches up with all of us.
That it does. It absolutely does. Well, the United States going to be in their blue jerseys, so everybody's supposed to wear blue for that match as they cheer on the United States against Iran, trying to get through to the knockout stages. And the knockout stages, again, can't have any draws there. That's when we'll start seeing overtime and penalty shootouts come into play. It always gets crazy once we get to the knockouts. Everybody out there, enjoy the last week of knockout matches. The last week of group stage matches as we get to the knockout round here soon. Got a lot coming up here the next couple of days with that. But for myself, Cole McDaniel, Matt Mrozinski, again, happy to have Matt joining me once again. It's going to be a fun one. Go USA.